She told me she needed a pause in our relationship while still sleeping beside me. But when I found her secret trip photos with another man, I realized she had already ended us long before I did. I'm Robert, 40M, and just a month ago, my life seemed pretty stable. A cozy apartment in Seattle where the rain tapped on the windows most nights, and Chloe, who's 28F. That night felt like any other. She got home, tossed her coat on a chair rather than hanging it up, and washed her hands like she always did. I prepared some bowls for a simple pasta dish she claimed tasted better when I made it. We sat down to eat, the dishwasher humming in the background, but her face was distant, almost like she was trying on a new outfit that didn't quite fit. She put her fork down, rested her hands on the table and said, "Robert, I think I need a break from our relationship." I couldn't help but laugh. An instinctive response. It felt like something you'd say about a show you were bored with, not about someone right next to you. She didn't find it amusing at all. Her expression didn't change. "A break?" I questioned. "We live together. What's that supposed to mean?" "I'm not breaking up with you," she insisted. "I just need to figure things out. I haven't felt like myself lately. There's a 3-week work trip coming up, and I think having a little space could help. No expectations, just room to breathe." It sounded so rehearsed, like she had practiced it on the way home. I looked for a crack in her words where I could interject a question and bring her back to us. "So, we're together, but not really together?" "For now," she replied. "We can talk when I get back." The dishwasher's hum grew louder in the quiet that followed. I could hear the traffic in the alley, and the pasta grew cold between us. Doubting my own voice, I took a sip of water that I didn't even want and stared out the window at our plants reaching for the light. "Okay," I finally said, the only thing I could come up with. She nodded, as if I'd just agreed to help carry something heavy up the stairs. She thanked me for being understanding, even though I didn't understand any of this, and I kept washing the bowls, while she answered a message in the other room. Something had definitely shifted, and I knew these questions wouldn't help. We finished cleaning in silence. She spent ages in the shower while I lingered in the hallway, just staring at that closed door like it might offer some answers. When she finally came out, her hair was still damp, pushed back behind her ears. "I'm tired," she mentioned. "Same here," I responded. We brushed our teeth side by side, almost like we were actors getting ready for a scene. When we got into bed, she curled up at her side, facing the wall. I was just lying there, gazing at the ceiling, counting the slow spins of the ceiling fan. The gap between us felt like a deliberate choice, as if it was meant to be there. I wanted to reach out and touch her shoulder, to urge her to rethink things. But I didn't want to come off as desperate either. I wasn't sure which urge would take over. "Good night," she said quietly. "Night," I replied, trying to find sleep in this new reality we were in. The morning brought coffee and awkward small talk. She put on lipstick for the first time in weeks. I asked if she needed anything for her trip, and she said she was good. Those brief conversations felt final, like there was nothing left to mend. All day, I caught myself picking up my phone, then putting it back down, pacing between the kitchen, the window, and the bedroom. The word pause kept ringing in my head, as if she had the power to hit some button and come back later, while I just waited on a shelf until she was ready to press play again. That night, it was leftovers for dinner. She was scrolling through a packing list while I pretended to watch TV, the blue light casting an unreal glow on our faces. We drifted to bed at the same time, and I stole a glance at the clock before letting my eyes settle on the outline of her shoulder in the dark. "Chloe," I began, but then stopped. There was so much to say, and no way to say it that would actually help. She stayed quiet. I lay there, listening to the rain tapping against the window, which used to feel comforting but now sounded like a ticking clock counting down. Days passed slowly, mirroring a version of our lives that felt both familiar and empty. We moved around each other like polite guests in the same space. Morning coffee and shared dinners had been replaced with neat, small talk. We still shared a bed, but it felt so different now. Things between us had gotten so cold, just this cautious space where there used to be warmth. I remember how she'd curl up beside me, our legs all tangled, her heartbeat a comforting rhythm against my arm. Now, she was always on her side of the bed, glued to her phone until she turned away. I'd lie there, unable to sleep, waiting for the screen to go dark, which it did each time, face down. Then, one morning, I saw her wearing that necklace I gave her for Christmas. A little silver circle with her initials. I kinda noticed while I was pouring my coffee. "You still wear it," I said softly. "It's nice," she replied, almost dismissively. "Not because it's from you. Just, it's nice." Our days felt like a loop, just us watching Netflix in silence, reminding me of how easy things used to feel. The quiet wasn't filled with anger. It was just careful. We both seemed scared to say something that would bring everything crashing down. One night, while I was washing the dishes, I finally threw out the question that had been lurking since that dinner. "Chloe, is there someone else?" She stopped mid-rinse and turned to me. "No, it's not anyone else. It's about me. I just need to figure things out," she said in this calm tone, maybe too calm. I wanted to trust her words, honestly, but something felt off. It was like I was getting a comforting answer rather than the truth. Her phone buzzed way more often these days. She would glance at it with a faint smile before putting it away. I tried not to read too much into it. She had friends, coworkers, her life outside of us. But I couldn't shake the feeling about how late she stayed out. Team hangouts, reconnecting with people I hadn't heard about in forever. One Friday, she came home after midnight, fresh makeup and a new perfume scent in the air. "Just had a few drinks with the team," she said casually as she slipped off her shoes. I nodded, forcing a smile. "Sounds like a blast." She returned the smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. That morning, she was humming while packing her bag. Too cheerful, too distant. I just sat at the table, watching her fold clothes into perfect stacks. New outfits, new shoes, travel-sized perfume. It felt like she was off to start a whole new chapter instead of just a business trip. As the days crept closer to her leaving, I felt this weight in my chest, like counting down to something that was bound to happen. The night before her flight, we had dinner mostly in silence. She looked at her phone twice while we ate, and I just stared at my plate, chewing without even tasting my food. Finally, I asked, "When you say pause, am I just supposed to wait for you?" Her hands froze, the fork making a soft clink against the plate. She looked at me, her eyes weary, and there was this softness on her face I couldn't quite put my finger on. "I don't know, Robert," she whispered. "I just need clarity." "Clarity," I repeated, which sounded so neat but felt more like a door slamming shut. We finished dinner without saying anything else. Later, we brushed our teeth in silence again. She crawled into bed, turning away from me, with her phone sitting on the nightstand, the screen dark. I lay there staring at the ceiling, wondering how something that used to feel like home now felt like holding a stranger's hand. When morning came, she moved quietly. I helped her zip up her suitcase, and she kissed me softly on the cheek, quick and distant, saying, "I'll text you when I land." The door closed gently behind her, and just like that, I was left alone in the quiet apartment, with nothing but the sound of a paused life around me. But I didn't realize then, it was more than a pause. It was the start of an ending I hadn't agreed to. After Chloe left, the apartment felt hollow, not empty, just missing her chatter. Her coffee mug sat on the counter, her toothbrush beside mine, and her favorite blanket still draped on the couch. It looked like she had just stepped out for errands and would be back any minute. For the first few days, I tried to act like it was just a pause, like she had said. I still brewed coffee for two, checked the mail for both our names, and found myself glancing at the door whenever I heard footsteps in the hall. She texted every couple of days. "Landed safe. Meetings are long. Hope you're doing okay." Polite, like the updates you'd send a coworker you didn't want to ignore. No hearts. No inside jokes. I kept telling myself to give her space. Maybe she really needed time to sort things out. Maybe we'd be okay. But there was this part of me, that uneasy voice, saying, "This doesn't feel right." By the end of the week, I could feel a quiet shift taking place. Her replies slowed down, and my calls went unanswered. Whenever I'd ask how she was doing, her replies were always brief. Good, busy, tired. So, I started going through old photos of us, partly to reminisce, partly to reassure myself that we used to be really happy together. Then one night, while mindlessly scrolling through Instagram, I got a follower request from someone named Lena Thompson. The name sounded familiar. She was one of Chloe's co-workers. I accepted it, not thinking much of it, until I saw Lena's latest post. It was a group picture taken at a rooftop bar, everyone looking cheerful under the string lights, drinks in hand. Chloe was at the center, laughing, her hair flowing, and there was a guy's hand on her back, way too close for just colleagues. She was leaning into him, not pulling away, with her eyes locked onto his instead of searching for mine. The caption read, "Work hard, play harder." I zoomed in on the guy's name tag, Caleb. I didn't recognize it. At first, I denied it. Maybe he was just a coworker, maybe it was innocent. I mean, people take those kinds of pictures, right? But something in me, the same gut feeling that picked up on her late nights, the new perfume and that sudden distance, told me otherwise. That night, I sat on the couch, the room mostly dark except for my phone's glow, replaying every sign I had brushed off. There were the early packings, her practiced calmness. She once said to me, "I don't know if you should wait for me." I was hoping to be wrong. I wanted to believe her that she was where she said she was, doing what she claimed to be doing. But that image, her smile, his hand, kept haunting me. I eventually put my phone down and gazed out at the streetlights below. For the first time since she had left, the word pause didn't feel normal anymore. It turned into a reason to justify what was happening. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay alone in bed, the sheets cool and untouched on her side, wondering how long she'd been plotting this version of clarity. Deep down, even before the reality unfolded, I already sensed it. I wasn't just waiting for her to come back. I was waiting for the truth to come to light. The next morning, I found myself sitting at the kitchen table with a cold cup of coffee, staring into space. The image of Chloe with Caleb kept flashing in my mind, like a flickering light I couldn't turn off. I wanted to tell myself it didn't mean anything. Maybe it was just a friendly photo, maybe I was just being paranoid. But that nagging voice inside kept saying, "You already know." By noon, I couldn't pretend anymore. Curiosity mixed with dread pushed me to check the one place she hadn't thought of: our shared cloud account. We used it for syncing trip photos and grocery lists, and I hadn't logged in for months. As I signed in, I wasn't sure what I was looking for. Maybe some random work pictures or scenery, something completely ordinary. But then a folder labeled Trip appeared, updated just the day before. I clicked on it. One photo after another loaded. Chloe laughing at dinner, Chloe on the beach, Chloe holding a drink under soft lights. And in almost every single one, there was Caleb. His hand on her back, their faces close, shoulders brushing like they were completely familiar with this. One selfie hit me hard. She was in a hotel bathroom wearing an oversized hoodie, his recognizable from a group shot. Her face was a little flushed, the kind of picture someone takes for someone special. That was it for me. I slowly closed my laptop. My chest felt heavy, but not from shock. It was more of a quiet heartbreak, the kind that drains you of energy to shout or cry. You just know. She hadn't just pressed pause on us. She'd replaced me. I didn't text her or ask why. No conversation could fix this. Instead, I sat in silence for a long time, listening to the fridge hum, reflecting on every little kindness I'd shown while being patient. Then I stood up, ready to make changes, not out of revenge, but out of acceptance. If Chloe wanted a pause, I'd give her a permanent and peaceful one. We had shared everything. Our lease, bills, accounts, everything was tied together. She'd asked me to hold down the fort while she was away, but that fort wasn't ours anymore. So I quietly started untangling the mess. I removed her access to our streaming services, separated our utility bills, changed passwords, not to punish her, but to protect myself. I checked the lease terms and found a clause about vacated co-tenants. If one person moved out for good, the other could request sole occupancy. I called the landlord and calmly explained that Chloe might not be coming back. He understood. He'd seen this sort of thing before. By evening, I packed a small box with her stuff. Nothing she'd miss but would need later. Spare keys, paperwork, chargers. I set it by the door. That night, I walked around the apartment, room to room. Our framed photos still hung on the walls, but I didn't take them down. I just looked at them differently. They were no longer reminders of us, just remnants of a time that had quietly slipped away. The bed felt bigger that night. Not emptier, just wider, as if it was finally being honest about what it was. I didn't cry, didn't call anyone, and didn't scroll through her photos again. I just breathed. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't waiting for a message or a reason. I had both already. 3 weeks later, a text buzzed on my phone. Heading home tomorrow. Can't wait to talk. Talk? After 3 weeks of silence and deceit? Sure, let's chat. But this time, it wouldn't be about pauses or clarity. It would be about endings, the quiet, necessary kind. When she returned, the apartment felt different. Not empty, just rearranged. The couch was now facing the window, and her throw blanket was neatly folded in a box by the door. The night before, I made sure everything she owned was accounted for. Not a hint of anger, just calm, deliberate steps toward closure. When I heard the key turn, I stood up from the table. The door opened, and Chloe walked in with a small smile, her suitcase rolling behind her. "Hey you," she said, like everything was normal. "Hey," I replied, my voice steady. "How was the trip?" "Yeah, it was eye-opening." She looked around the room. "Why does the living room look different?" "I reorganized," I said. "Made space for what?" "For your things. You'll need them packed by Friday." Her face changed, that stillness when the truth finally dawns. "What are you talking about?" I slid my phone across the table to her. There was the photo, her and Caleb, his hand on her waist, her smile pressed against his shoulder. "You wanted space," I said softly. "You found it. Now I'm giving you more." She blinked at it. "Ethan, it's not what it looks like." "Don't," I replied quietly. "I've seen enough." "It wasn't serious," she rushed to say. I was confused. "I didn't mean to." "Chloe," I interrupted, steady. "You didn't want a pause. You wanted permission." Her eyes filled with tears, but I wasn't mad, just tired. "I didn't plan this," she whispered. "I thought the trip would help me figure things out, and then everything got messy." "Yeah," I nodded. "It did." Silence filled the room, stretching between us like an awkward third wheel. "I don't hate you," I finally said. "But I can't pretend this is still a pause when you've already pressed stop." She bit her lip, her eyes glistening. "Can we talk about this, please? I made a mistake. I didn't want to lose you. I think you lost me the moment you decided clarity needed company." For a moment, she seemed ready to argue. But then she just nodded, small and resigned. The next few days went by quietly as she packed up her things. No shouting, no slamming doors. Just the soft shuffle of boxes, and the occasional sniffle when she thought I couldn't hear. I didn't help her, not out of spite but because this was her journey. On Friday, she stood by the door with her bags, eyes red. "I'm really sorry," she said. "I know," I replied. "I hope you find what you're looking for." She hesitated. "Do you hate me?" I shook my head. "No, I just don't recognize you anymore." She nodded slowly before walking out. The door clicked softly behind her. Not dramatic, just final. That night, I sat on the couch we used to share and felt something I hadn't in months. Peace. Not joy, not relief, just a quiet, honest peace. I ordered takeout, watched the rain, and realized I didn't need closure from her. I had already found it. 2 months later, I bumped into Lena at a coffee shop. She asked how I was doing. "Better," I said. She nodded and mentioned that Chloe and Caleb had ended things shortly after the trip. "Guess he wasn't ready for anything serious," she added with a shrug. I thanked her for the update, though I didn't really need it. Some stories end themselves without you needing to turn the page. As I walked home, I thought about that word, pause. Maybe Chloe meant it, maybe she believed she could come back and hit play again. But life doesn't wait for rewinds. It keeps moving forward quietly when you finally choose yourself. If someone asked for a pause while still sleeping next to you, would you wait or just walk away? I appreciate you sticking around till the end. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more stories.